Question number 8. It's a time zone word problem that includes 3 different cities. So in here, the question states that the local time in Abu Dhabi is 4 hours ahead of Greenwich Mean Time. So Greenwich Mean Time is the time measured at the prime meridian, that is 0° longitude, which passes through the Royal Observatory Greenwich in England. We can think of it as a reference time from which many other time zones are calculated. So local time in Rio de Janeiro is 3 hours behind Greenwich Mean Time. Now there are 4 questions they have asked after giving the information. So the information is that Abu Dhabi is 4 hours ahead of GMT. Local time in Rio de Janeiro is 3 hours behind Greenwich Mean Time. So one is ahead of Greenwich Mean Time, the other is behind Greenwich Mean Time. So if it is 4 p.m. at Greenwich Mean Time, what time is it in Abu Dhabi? So the very first part, again, we take a start with solving the question by first stating or writing the information provided in the question to us so that we can build on it. So we are given that Abu Dhabi's time is GMT plus 4 hour because it's 4 hours ahead. So we express it as plus 4. Next was about the information on the time zone of the Rio de Janeiro, which is GMT minus 3 because it is 3 hours behind. Then the very first question they ask if it's 4 p.m. at Greenwich, so what would be the time in Abu Dhabi? So if we write it in the 24-hour format, so it would be the 4 p.m. can be written as 16, right? So after 12 we are having 1 is referred to 13, 2 is referred to or written as 14, and 3 is written as 15, and 4 is written as 16 in the 24-hour format. So if it's 4 p.m. at Greenwich, so it is 16. What will be the time in Abu Dhabi? So given the information, it is GMT plus 4 hours. So if at GMT it is 4 o'clock plus 4 o'clock, we get 20, which means that it would be 8 o'clock because 4 plus 4 is equal to 8 o'clock if we express it in the 12-hour format. So it would be 8 p.m. in Abu Dhabi. The second part is if it's 3 a.m. in Greenwich, what time is it in Rio de Janeiro? So Rio de Janeiro is 3 hours behind as it was given to us in the question in the start. So if it is 3 p.m. in Greenwich, and we would be subtracting my 3 because it is behind GMT, so we will be left with 0. 3 minus 3 is equal to 0, so it means 0 is when we get 12 o'clock or midnight time. So it would be midnight time in Rio de Janeiro. The third part of the question is that if it's 3 p.m. in Rio de Janeiro, what time is it in Abu Dhabi? So now we are not talking about in reference to the Greenwich time, we are talking about the 2 cities, that is Rio de Janeiro and Abu Dhabi. So what do we do is that first we convert the Rio time to GMT and then from GMT to Abu Dhabi time, and then you will be able to know that if it is 3 p.m. in Rio de Janeiro, what time would it be in Abu Dhabi? So 3 p.m. in Rio de Janeiro, it would be 15 if we write it in the 24-hour format. So since we had mentioned that GMT is Rio de Janeiro is behind 3 hours behind GMT, it means GMT is 3 hours ahead of the Rio de Janeiro. Therefore we will write 15 plus 3. So 15 plus 3 is equal to 18. This means that this is all in the 24-hour format. If we write it in 12-hour format, it is 3 o'clock plus 3 hours, so it would be 6 o'clock. So now we have the time in the GMT. Now we convert the GMT to Abu Dhabi, so 18 or 6 o'clock plus 4 o'clock, because Abu Dhabi is ahead of GMT by 4 hours. So 18 plus 4, it would be 22. It means that it would be 10 o'clock in Abu Dhabi. 22 is again, it is in the 24-hour format, and 10 is in the 12-hour format. So it would be 10 p.m. in Abu Dhabi. The fourth part of the question is, if it is 8 a.m. in Abu Dhabi, what time is it in Rio de Janeiro? So we convert Abu Dhabi time to GMT, and then from GMT we convert it to Rio de Janeiro. So if it's 8 a.m. in Abu Dhabi, we write 8 minus 4, because we did mention that Abu Dhabi is ahead of GMT by 4 hours. So it means that GMT is behind Abu Dhabi by 4 hours. Therefore, we would write 8 minus 4 hours. So it would be 4. So it means that if it is 8 a.m. in Abu Dhabi, it would be 4 p.m. 4 a.m. In GMT timing. Now we convert the GMT to Rio de Janeiro. So 4 of the GMT minus 3, because again GMT Rio de Janeiro is 3 hours behind the Greenwich Mean Time. So it would be from the Greenwich Mean Time minus 3 hours, we would have 1. So it means that it would be 1 a.m. in Rio de Janeiro when we have 8 a.m. in Abu Dhabi. So I hope the question is clear, and so is the different parts of the question and its solution. The timing, how we convert it from one time to another. The first two were easy ones because we had a reference of the Greenwich time, but the third and fourth part was kind of indirect. It was the reciprocal of what we had constructed in the first two parts. So I hope this is getting clear and making sense for you all. That's all for this question. Happy learning!